Hi, everybody that's just joining. Thanks for attending today. So we hope you find this session valuable. So we're hosted today by CA Pathway Immigration Services, and Alex is here representing the company. And myself, Patrick, and my colleague Anna are we work for the CELPIP test. So we're going to give you some information today on the general information that you need to know about the test, like the format and any commonly asked questions. So thanks for attending, and hope you guys find this valuable. We'll just wait for a minute or two to let people trickle in, and then we'll get started. So hope everybody is looking forward to the weekend and excited for the fall. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm very good. Thank you. So yeah, 或者我講一講廣東話 Let me speak in Cantonese a bit to welcome my friends and clients in Hong Kong. So 大家好啦，咁我係 Alex 啦，咁有啲可能認識我，有啲就未認識我啦。咁我係 CA Pathway 嘅 Director， 加拿大嘅移民顧問啦。咁而家就香港嘅星期五夜晚10點鐘，咁就好多謝各位嚟即係參加呢個 webinar。咁希望呢個 webinar 可以俾少少 information 大家，如果係諗住申請移民啊，或者申請入籍啊，了解加拿大少少英文嘅，究竟係一個認受嘅English test 係take CELPIP 有咩好處啊咁樣。今日Patrick、Anna 都會同大家分享下。咁我哋轉個頭就會開始啦，請大家稍等一陣。Okay, Patrick, let's continue. I just finished blah blah blah. Yeah, just want to spend a few moments with the friends in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, and yeah, I'd love to learn some Cantonese or Mandarin sometime. It'd be good to learn a new language.
Yeah. Let me know. I will speak slower so that you can catch a bit, or I can do bilingual channel. I can switch it like this.
Perfect.
Alex, I think we'll need more time with you for that to happen, so we can understand you.
Yeah. So I'll bring up my slides then, and we'll get started.
We do have some questions that we can ask ahead of time while we're waiting for people to log on.
Yeah. So I'll just ask you guys a couple questions just to see where you're at with the CELPIP test, and if you know about it. So we'll get started here.
And during the presentation, if you do have any questions, there is a box that says Q&A. So if you want to ask us questions and you're able to just type it in, please use the Q&A. The chat box is just a general, like if you're having any troubles with technical issues, you can just put it in the chat box. But any questions that you have for Patrick or Alex, can you please put it in the Q&A box, so that will help us out as well. And I'll be the one assisting today, so I'll be answering most of your questions as well.
Okay, so 或者我用廣東話講一次啦。咁如果即係聽緊我哋 webinar， 如果有任何問題咧，可以用 Q&A 嗰個 function 去問問題啦。咁如果有啲其他 technical 嘅問題，你先舉手啊，或者用嗰個 chat box 嗰個 function。如果唔係其他就大家擺 Q&A 啊，唔該晒。
I love this. I want a personal translator everywhere I go, Alex.
Yeah, I can do a part-time job for Paragon.
Oh,
Such a big company. Yeah.
We definitely hire you.
Okay, sure. We'll talk about this after the webinar.
All right. So yeah, I just wanted to see what would be the reason that all of you attendees would be taking an English test such as CELPIP. So I'm just going to launch this question here. So just feel free to provide an answer. So what would be the reason that you guys would be looking to take an English test right now? Is it for immigration to Canada, citizenship, employment reasons, to study? Okay, so we got primarily for immigration, permanent resident status in Canada. Yeah. Great. Lots of feedback. That's good. Okay.
Just remember that they can't see the polls, the actual, so if you just talk it out so we know where the majority of the people are coming from, that would be great. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, most of you have replied it's for immigration, permanent resident status in Canada. There's about 30% that said they're taking it for admission to university, college, or vocational program.
Wow. So then we'll definitely mention CALE because that would be a better option, but we'll mention that later on. We have a different test called CALE, and that's an academic test that's used for university and college purposes, but we'll briefly mention it later as well so you know where to get the information.
Yep. Yeah, 20% said for employment. So we're getting a multitude of purposes that people are taking the test or going to take the test. Perfect. Okay, so I'll end the poll there. Perfect. And then still getting used to these polls here. Let me see if we have another one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll ask this one too. How familiar are you with the CELPIP test? So I'll just launch that question right here. So just feel free to provide an answer. Is it the first time you've heard of it? Have you heard of it already and you're just looking to prepare? So just give us some feedback there. Maybe you haven't heard of the test before.
Just a wild guess. I think our friends in Hong Kong may not be very familiar with CELPIP. They may heard the other tests like IELTS or TOEFL. Yeah, so this is the reason why they would like to know more about the test and join our webinar.
Yep. Yeah, it's been pretty split. So a lot of them have heard of it. 60% have heard of CELPIP. About 40% haven't. So yeah, so this will be a great webinar for you guys to get the foundation and to learn about the basics. Perfect. We're getting lots of feedback, which is great. Okay, and I think we have one more question here. Thanks again for the feedback. Okay, and then the last one is, when would you be planning to take the CELPIP test? So I'll just launch that question, or an English test in general. So would it be like within the next 3 months? Would it be, in 6 months from now? You're still deciding, you don't want to take it. So just let us know your feedback. Okay, so we got quite a few people that are looking to take it within the next 3 months or within the next 3 to 6 months. And then there's still some people that want to learn more about the test, and that's great. That's what we're here for today. And so nobody doesn't want to take the test, so that's great.
So they're all required to take it at some point.
Yep. Okay, great. So thanks for the feedback, everybody. So we'll get started. So yeah, just let me know if you can't see the screen or if you're having trouble hearing me. So just let us know in the chat box. But without further ado, I'll get started. So if you have any questions that come up, as Anna mentioned, just put them in the Q&A box instead of the chat box. So if you have any questions, we'll have a period at the end of my session where we will do a Q&A and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So, all right, I'll get started.
I just have a very quick comment. One of the students just mentioned that they're taking the test tomorrow. So hopefully some of the information here will help them.
My blessings to you.
Good luck,
Yeah.
Carmen.
Good luck.
Yeah.
All right. Just give me one moment. Just having a bit of a technical issue here. Oh, here we go. Let's see. There we go. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, today Anna and I are going to talk about the CELPIP test, which is one of 2 tests, English tests, that you can take for immigration purposes, immigrating to Canada. And the test can also be taken for other reasons as well. But the main reasons that CELPIP is commonly taken is for immigration and citizenship in Canada. So it is a Canadian test, and we're going to go into more detail about everything you need to know, to help you make your decision on which test to take. So we're very happy today to be hosted by Alex and his wonderful agency, CA Pathway Immigration Services, which is located in Ontario. And we're happy to be delivering this information to all of you around the world, as well, Canada, Hong Kong, especially. So we're happy that you guys could attend today. Just to give you a background, Anna and I work for Paragon Testing Enterprises, which is the company that owns the CELPIP test and administers it around the world. So Paragon is the name of the company that owns the CELPIP test. I'll just give you a background about myself. So basically, I've been working with Paragon for over 4 years, working with the CELPIP test. I started in customer service. So that gave me a background of the common questions that test takers have and the different challenges that they face. And now I'm working in business development. So I'm helping to open new test centers around the world and also do these workshops and promote the test and provide the free information and awareness to newcomers and those that work with newcomers. I have a bachelor's degree in social work. So social work is a very broad degree. So you can get into different disciplines, but I love to help people. So that's why I'm happy to be providing this free information for you today. I love sports. I really love coffee. So I got to cut down on my coffee because I've been having about 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. So that's probably not too good for my health, but slowly but surely I'll try to cut that down. And I got one here, as you guys probably wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so we'll get started. So that's a little bit about me. This is just showing you around the world where we do have CELPIP test center locations. So currently we do test in several countries, and we are always opening new test centers worldwide. So currently we have many test centers in Canada, all of the major cities in Canada, many locations in the United States. We have a test center in the Middle East in Dubai. We have one in Hong Kong as well, and I'll get into more detail about where that's located. We have 5 test center locations in India. Actually, I think we have more, but we're always expanding. One in Singapore and one in Philippines. So if we don't have a test center currently where you are living, keep checking back on the website because we're always opening new test centers worldwide. And you're also able to travel to any test center to take the test. So any country that you're able to travel to, you could take the test there. This is showing you specifically where the Hong Kong test center would be. So I haven't been to Hong Kong. I would love to go someday. But for any of you that are currently living in Hong Kong, this is giving you an idea of where it is, as well as, yep.
Maybe I can share a little bit. So
Sure,
the test center in Hong Kong， 即係其實咧就喺九龍嘅新蒲崗啦。咁嗰度有一個叫做考評局啊 HKEAA。咁其實個 location 都幾方便，即係如果住喺九龍區啊，或者係喺新界嗰邊嘅朋友咧，可能呢個 test center 都會比較近嘅。Okay, I've just finished some location sharing with the friends.
Perfect. That was great. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, and that's the link right there at the bottom if you wanted to just find a test date in Hong Kong. So that's the direct website link, which is celpip.ca/hong-kong. And that will give you all of the available test dates in Hong Kong for CELPIP. Okay, so I'm going to go over the common features of the test. So CELPIP is a Canadian test, so it was developed in Canada, in BC, British Columbia. So it's the only Canadian test that is accepted by the federal government of Canada for immigration and citizenship purposes. So given that the test is Canadian, it does utilize Canadian accents in the listening passages. So when you're doing the listening section, you will be listening to a Canadian accent. So if many of you are currently living in Canada, or you're familiar with the Canadian accent, then the listening section is going to sound really familiar to you because it will be a Canadian accent. I know that some other English proficiency tests, you might be listening to like a British accent or an Australian accent. So CELPIP is Canadian. So you will be taking the test in using North American English as well as Canadian accents in the listening section. So that's kind of one feature that's different from other English tests, is that CELPIP does have Canadian English. The full test is computer delivered. So you take it at a test center. So you have to take CELPIP at a test center, but all of your 4 components, listening, reading, writing, and speaking, are completed at one time within 3 hours maximum. So you don't have to wait for a additional speaking interview, because you complete your speaking at the same time that you complete the other components. So you complete all 4 components at one time, and then you're finished and you can go home and wait for your results. Speaking of results, your test results come out in only 4 to 5 days after your test date. So that's fairly quickly. So they do come out. They will be posted on the CELPIP website. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, one big change happened. So right now, we are not delivering the physical copy of the score reports unless you request it. So what you can do now is you can download your results onto your computer as a PDF and submit them for immigration or citizenship online. So everything can be done online now. So you don't have to receive the physical copy in the mail. Now you can download the scores onto your computer and apply online for permanent residency or citizenship in Canada. So that's a little bit more convenient, and you don't have to wait for the mail. Maybe, it gets delivered to the wrong address. So we are not mailing the physical copy unless you request it in your CELPIP account. So that's one important thing to note. I will go over the many free study products that we have. We have a lot of free study resources that you can access. So I'll talk about that a little bit later in the session. Okay, so there are 2 types of CELPIP tests that you can take. So the CELPIP test for Canadian immigration is called the CELPIP General Test. So that's the test that you can see at the top. That covers the 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So the total test time is 3 hours. So as I mentioned, you complete the full test in 3 hours. So you don't have an additional speaking interview. You complete all of the 4 sections in one sitting at one time. You can finish the test early. So you can end up finishing the test in 2.5 hours, and then you can get up and leave. You don't have to wait for everybody to finish the test before you leave the test center. If you're finished in 2 hours, you can leave after 2 hours and go home and wait for your results. So depending on where you're taking the test, the price varies a little bit. If you take the CELPIP test in Canada, the price is $280 Canadian plus tax. So $280 Canadian plus tax, depending on which province you're taking the test in. In Hong Kong, the price is $335 Canadian plus tax. So that's the price in Hong Kong if you're taking it there. And then other countries, the price is a little bit different as well. So the bottom test is called the CELPIP General LS test. So that has only the listening and speaking section. So only 2 sections. That is the test you would take if you're applying for, Canadian citizenship. So if you're already a permanent resident and you're applying for citizenship, then you have to only prove your listening and speaking skills. So we have a CELPIP test where you only take listening and speaking. So the test is a lot shorter It's only about 1 hour long, and it's a lot cheaper. So it's $195 Canadian plus tax. But that is if you're applying for citizenship, not immigration. So if you're applying for immigration to Canada, then you would take the CELPIP general test covering the 4 skills.
Oh, this is good.
Hopefully-
Let me share a little bit in Cantonese with our friends
Sure.
and
Yeah, that'd be
attendees.
great.
So 其實 CELPIP General 咧係加拿大移民局認可嘅一個 English test 啦。咁你3個鐘入邊就可以完成晒聽講讀寫啦。咁其實你又唔使走嚟走去，時間上又 flexible 啲，全部電腦可以做到。咁呢個就係 CELPIP 嘅 General 啦。咁下邊 CELPIP 嗰個 LS 咧就係 for listening 同埋 speaking 啦，就聆聽同埋講啦。咁就話將來如果申請入籍嘅時候咧，下邊個 LS 先係適用。咁因為而家香港都好多朋友係想計劃移民去加拿大啦，就算你係可能係 Express Entry 快速通道係技術移民又好啦，加拿大經驗裏邊又好啦，或者係用 Public Policy 啊、省提名方面都好 ，CELPIP 嘅 General 咧其實都係加拿大移民局認可嘅。即係如果有計劃嚟緊要考嘅朋友咧，其實都可以睇下，除咗 CELPIP 或者 IELTS 或者會唔會即係邊個會好啲啊？我諗今日呢個 webinar 可以幫到大家咯。Okay, yeah, please continue, Patrick. Sorry to interrupt you.
Thanks, Alex. No, that was great. Thank you. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the scoring for the test. So basically, on an immigration application to Canada, the government uses the CLB, or the Canadian Language Benchmark levels, to determine your English ability. So when you're looking at an immigration or a Canadian citizenship application, the government will ask you to meet a CLB score in a language test, in an English test. So the CELPIP levels that we use are equal to the CLB levels the government uses. So the benefit of that is that it's very clear what score you need to meet. So for example, if for your immigration, you have to meet CLB 7 in an English test, that means you have to meet a CELPIP 7. If you have to meet CLB 5, that means you have to get CELPIP level 5. So it's fully equal, fully equivalent, just so that it's very clear which level you have to score in your English test. So the way that CELPIP works, you are given a CELPIP level in each section: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So 12 is like is 100%, and M is like the lowest score you can get. So you'll get a CELPIP level in each section. There is no overall or average score. So no average score. You're given an individual level for each component. For an immigration application, you have to meet a minimum score. So you will have to meet a minimum score on the CELPIP test. So if your minimum score, for example, for immigration is 5, then you have to get a 5 or higher in each of the 4 sections to pass, to meet the requirement. So there's no overall score. You have to meet a minimum level. So if your minimum level is 5 and you score a level 3 in writing, then you did not pass. So you have to get the minimum or higher in all of the 4 sections. So hopefully that's clear for everybody. If not, we can clarify that in the question and answer period. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the different components of the test. So the first section that you will take is the listening section. So you're going to be seated in the test room and at your computer workstation, and you're going to have a headset. So you're going to be listening to different audio clips in the headset, and you'll get one chance to hear each clip. So you cannot replay the clip. You get one chance. And after you finish listening to each clip, then you will be taken to the question screen. And the format is multiple choice, as you can see here. So you're going to listen to an audio passage, an audio clip, and then you will be taken to see what the questions are and answer them. So one thing to note is, as you're listening to each listening clip, you will not know what the questions are. So when everybody starts their CELPIP test, you're given a note paper and a pen or pencil. So the listening section is a great time to take notes because you don't know what the questions are until after you finish listening to each listening conversation. So that's one important thing to know. There are about 38 multiple choice questions in the listening section in total. So you will be given a score based on how many multiple choice questions you answer correctly out of the total number in the listening section. The listening section is just under an hour, so it's about 47 to 55 minutes long. And as I said, it is multiple choice. One thing to note is it's better to, if you're, don't leave any question, know the answer to a particular question. Don't leave any questions blank. Pick something. Make sure that you've selected an answer for each question because it will give you a better chance at getting a higher score. So just make sure that you answer every question, even if you don't know the answer. As you're going through the listening section, the audio clips and the questions will get a little bit harder. So you might start with a level 2 listening clip and questions, and then near the end of the listening section, you might be answering level 9 or 10 questions. So the questions do get harder as you go through the listening section, as well as the reading section. So one good thing about CELPIP is that because it's computer delivered, you're always going to see how much time you have to complete each section. So as an example here in the top right corner, you can see it says time remaining 20 seconds. So it tells you every step how much time you have to complete each question or series of questions. You are able to click the blue next button if you finished answering the questions and you want to advance. You can advance before the time expires by clicking the blue next button. But just keep in mind, in the CELPIP test, you can't go back. So if you want to click next, make sure you're happy with all of the answers that you've provided, because you cannot go back to change your answer. You can only go forward in the CELPIP test. So those are some tips on the listening section. So the reading section is the second section that you will encounter. So reading is also multiple choice, and it's just about an hour long as well. So 55 to 60 minutes, so roughly an hour. So the reading section is good because you have the reading passages and the questions at the same time. So as you can see here, you have the reading passage on the left, and then you have the questions on the right. And the questions are multiple choice format, and it tells you how much time that you have to complete this series of questions here. So similar to listening, the questions do get harder as you go through the reading section as well as the reading passages. So the difficulty does increase as you go through it. What I would say is try not to spend too much time reading and understanding every little detail in the reading passage. Try to just briefly skim the reading passage to get a general idea, and then just start answering the questions. So as you're answering the questions, try to look for keywords in the reading passage that relates to the question you're trying to answer. So I'm trying to give an example, but if your question that you're trying to answer is talking about sports, and you notice that paragraph number 2 is talking about basketball, well, that will help you locate where the answer to the sports question is. So try to look for similar words in the reading passages that relate to the question you're trying to answer so that you can more quickly answer the questions. So try to skim and scan for keywords that relate to the question you're trying to answer. So hopefully that's clear for everybody. On the reading section, there is a little bar that you have to scroll down so that you can answer all of the questions. So just make sure that you scroll down and you've answered all of the questions on that page, because sometimes there might be questions that are hidden at the bottom. So you'll have to scroll down to view them and answer them. Okay, the writing section is the third section that you will encounter. So writing is also about an hour, 53 to 60 minutes. Writing has only 2 questions. So you're given about a half an hour to answer each question. So just to give you an idea, task number 1 is going to be writing an email. So I'm sure that many of you are comfortable with how to write an email and how to format an email. But the CELPIP test is always going to be focused on everyday life scenarios. So you might be writing an email to a family member or to a friend. You might be, writing an email to a coworker or to your supervisor at work. So the CELPIP test is always going to be about everyday life situations that you would encounter all across the world. So it's not an academic test. CELPIP is a general test. So task number 1, I'll give you an example. So you're going to be asked to write an email, but each test, the scenario will be different, but you're always going to be writing an email for task number 1 in the writing section. So as an example, task number 1 is you recently went out to dinner at a restaurant, but the food and the service was pretty bad, was terrible. So at the time, the restaurant manager was not there, so you could not bring the complaint to him when you had the dinner. So the next day, you're writing an email to the manager to complain about your experience. So as you can see here, it's a general everyday life situation. And you have your scenario on the left, which is explaining what the situation is. And then on the right, it gives you instructions on what to include in your email. So the first point is you have to state what problems you had with the food that you ordered. So you have to state the problem. Point number 2, you complain about the service that you received. So maybe the waiter was not very friendly or wasn't helpful or was not accurately recording your order. And then point number 3, you have to describe how you want the restaurant to resolve the problem to your satisfaction. So this is a general example of a writing task number 1 in the CELPIP test. So it's going to give you the instructions on the right on what to include in the piece of writing. Just make sure that you really read the instructions carefully and that you're not going off topic. So just keep on topic and just include only what you're being asked to talk about. One thing about the writing section is that you do have to keep your responses for task 1 and task 2 within a word count range. So the word count range is a minimum of 150 words and a maximum of 200 words. So you want to keep your responses within that range, because if you write less than 150 or if you write more than 200, you could be penalized for not following instructions. But having said that, one good thing about the CELPIP test is that it does have a lot of helpful tools in the writing section. So I don't know if many of you are familiar, but it does have a word counter. So it's going to tell you as you're typing how many words you've already typed. So you won't have to count how many words you've typed. It's going to let you know as you're typing. For example, you've already typed 170 words. So that'll be easier for you to keep your response within the requirement. Another couple helpful tools that the writing section has, which is similar to typing a document in Microsoft Word. So you're going to have access to cut, copy, paste, as well as spell check. So in the real CELPIP writing test, if you misspell a word, the system will underline it, the same as Microsoft Word. And then you can right click on the misspelled word and it will give you suggestions to choose between. So keep in mind, spell check on the CELPIP test is only if you misspell a word. So you could misuse a word. For example, you could say, I know what you mean, but you use the wrong no. So instead of, know like K-N-O-W, you could say, I know what you mean. So the word is spelled correctly, but it's not the right use of the word. So the spell check will only let you know if you misspell a word. So just pay attention to that, because make sure you're using the correct usage of the word as well, because the system will not catch that. It will only catch if you misspell a word. But still, it's a helpful tool to have, as well as cut, copy, and paste if you wanted to move your writing answers and sentences around. So you do have those helpful tools, and just make sure you stay within the word count range as well. So task number 2 is going to be responding to survey questions. So basically, it gives you a scenario, and you have to choose between typically 2 options. So for example, I'll give you an example task number 2 question. So you live in a small town, and your town is deciding whether to build a shopping mall in the town or whether to develop a park. So which option do you think is better, and why? So in this case, there's no wrong answer. You just pick whichever side you support and then give your reasons, kind of like an essay where you're giving ideas and examples and arguments on why you think one option is better than the other. Do you think it's better that your town builds a shopping mall? Or do you think it's better that your town develops a park instead? So it's going to present you with 2 options in task number 2. There's no wrong answer. Pick one option and explain why you think one option is better than the other option. And that will get you, those are some good tips about the writing section. Okay, last but not least, it is the CELPIP speaking section. So the speaking section is actually a lot shorter than the other sections. It's only about 15 to 20 minutes long. So for the CELPIP speaking section, it's a little bit different than other leading English tests. So it's not a live speaking interview with an examiner. You're actually going to be following the instructions on the computer screen and then providing responses into your headset microphone that you're going to have, that you're going to be wearing. So you're not going to be talking to another individual live. The responses that you provide into the microphone will be recorded and then listened to and graded at a later date by CELPIP speaking graders. So once again, you won't have to worry about, making eye contact with the examiner. You won't have to worry about your body language, because you're not going to be having a live interview. Your responses will only be recorded and then listened to and graded later. So that might eliminate some anxiety that you might have for having somebody evaluate your speaking face to face. So that's a little bit different than some other English tests. This is the breakdown. So one good thing about the speaking section is that you are given preparation time where you can see what the topic is or what the question is, and you'll be given about 30 to 60 seconds of preparation time to think about what you want to say. And then once the preparation time expires, then you will go into the recording time. So you're given that preparation time before each task where you can collect your thoughts and think about how you're going to respond to the question. So I'll give you an example. So some questions are just, you'll just be reading text on the screen and responding to them. And then other parts of the speaking section, there will be a picture as well as text. So you might have to compare 2 options. Maybe it's 2 houses, 2 phones. You might have to describe a picture on the screen, which I'll show you right now. So task number 3, you're going to be describing a picture on the screen. So it's always going to be a different picture. So basically for this task, you want to pretend you're describing the picture to somebody that can't see it. So at the beginning, you want to start with like a general overview, a general idea of what you're looking at. So you could say, I'm looking at a classroom full of students, and it appears that the teacher is out of the room talking to another staff member. So start with a general overview of what you're looking at, and then you can start going into more detail about things that are happening in the picture. So just focus on explaining what you're comfortable talking about. If there's a part of the picture that you don't understand, then just leave it and don't try to talk about that. talk about things that you feel comfortable speaking about and that you know what's happening. And try to be very descriptive. So, you know, like you could say the boy in the blue shirt is throwing a paper airplane. You can also make predictions. So, you know, I think that the paper airplane is going to go out of the window and leave the classroom. So you can just try to be very descriptive and also think about what's happening next. So try to give a lot of ideas and input as you're describing. So that's giving you an example. If you're given 60 seconds to give a response, try to use the full amount of time. So make sure that you're showing the CELPIP raters the full extent of your speaking ability. Use different vocabulary, use the full amount of time to give your response. Don't give like a 5-second response if you're given 60 seconds to speak. So try to use the full amount of time, but do stay on topic. So don't talk about things that are not related to the instructions or the questions. So as you can see here, just giving you a general breakdown, they are very general topics. So task number 1 for speaking, giving advice. It might be to a friend or family member. Task number 2, talking about a personal experience. It might be a memorable vacation that you had with friends or family. And then it goes down the list. But basically, they're very general topics, and they will oftentimes ask you to draw on personal experience. So things that have happened to you that you would be comfortable talking about. Okay, so that gives you a general overview of the 4 different sections of the test. So now I'm going to cover the test preparation materials that we have. One of the best tools that we have is that both on the CELPIP website and our YouTube channel, which you can see the link right there, we run webinars every week that are free, and they cover different components of the test. So we have the CELPIP Speaking Pro webinar, the CELPIP Writing Pro webinar. So depending on where you want to focus your preparation, we have a specific webinar for that. They are totally free, and they're led by CELPIP experts. So the webinars are about 60 to 90 minutes long. So it's a lot of material that they cover. So take advantage of it. We run the live ones every week, or if you're not able to attend the live session, we have recordings of these fabulous webinars on our YouTube channel where you can watch them at any time, after work, whenever you have some free time. So check the CELPIP website for the webinar times, or you can also check out the YouTube channel to watch them on demand whenever you have time. We also run a live stream weekly, so it's CELPIP Live. We normally invite special guests onto the stream, so it's very fun. It's interactive. Oftentimes, the special guest that we invite is very relevant to our test takers. So they might be talking about Canadian immigration matters. They might be talking about English building exercises. So it's always a very relevant topic to the CELPIP test. And we provide great information on the test itself. So it is a very useful, fun, interactive session. It's streamed live on our YouTube channel. I believe it's once a week, so you can check out the YouTube channel for news on what the schedule is. But it's really fun. I'd recommend you check it out. We also have a lot of study tips, written study tips, video study tips in our study products. So tons of information there to help you, give you some valuable insight on how to do well on the test. For everybody that attends today, we will be giving you a free study product, which is valued at about $30 Canadian for being great guests today. So we're gonna send everybody an email about a few hours after today's session, which will give you instructions on how to redeem the free study product. So you'll have to create a CELPIP account, and then we'll give you a voucher code by email to redeem the free study product. It's a great product. It's CELPIP Accelerate Reading and Writing. So it's the one that you can see there in the middle. And it's a great online study program. You study by yourself. It has videos to watch. It quizzes you on what you learned in the videos. It has a practice test inside. It has study notes, lots of different materials in one online study program. So it does normally cost $30, but we'll be giving everybody that attended today for free. So keep in mind, this is for everybody that is attending right now that will be able to take advantage of this offer. One great place to start is I would recommend anybody that wants to really learn more about the CELPIP test to take the free sample test on the website. So you can take the free sample test at celpip.ca/free. The sample test is the same exact format as the real test. So if you really want to know how do I feel taking the CELPIP test, take the practice test. It's gonna let you know how much time do you have to complete each section, how comfortable do I feel taking the test, what types of questions can I expect, how am I expected to answer them. So taking the practice test, that will give you a real simulation of how the real test is going to feel. A good thing about the sample test as well is that it will give you approximate listening and reading scores. So you can see roughly what CELPIP level you're at in listening and reading after taking the practice test. So celpip.ca/free, that's where you can access the practice test as well as a lot of the other free resources that we have to help you prepare. So the pandemic is it's still with us, unfortunately, but hopefully we'll get out of this soon. But just some common things to note. So we did change a couple testing procedures due to the pandemic to make sure that we're keeping everybody extra safe, because that is our priority, to keep everybody safe while they're taking the CELPIP test. So a couple things to note. You do have to bring your own mask to the test center, and you have to keep your mask on throughout the entire test. So even during the speaking section, you'll have to keep your mask on, but don't worry, because we have tested wearing your mask and providing responses, and it does not impact our raters' ability to understand your responses. So it will not impact how clear your speaking responses are, but you will have to keep your mask on. So try to bring a mask that maybe you feel comfortable in. Maybe it's a little bit lighter, something that you're comfortable wearing throughout the whole test, from the time you enter the test center until the time that you leave the test center. So you will have to keep your mask on. Due to the pandemic as well, there's going to be less test takers in one room together. So I believe there's about 8 to 10 test takers now allowed in one room. And there's going to be a lot more space between you and the next test taker. So it might feel a little bit more comfortable, and it will also keep you safer during this difficult time. So before COVID-19, maybe 20 to 30 people would be taking a test together, but now there's less than 10 people allowed in one room to take a test. So there's going to be a lot less test takers in one room with you, and there will be a lot more space between you and the next person taking the test. So it should feel a little bit more comfortable right now, and it will also keep you safer. To find out more about how we are responding to the pandemic and any changes in the test delivery, you can visit the website link on the bottom. I think that wraps it up. So I'll just get Anna actually to briefly talk about our academic English test, which is accepted by the universities and colleges in Canada.
Thank you, Patrick. So
You're
we
welcome.
also offer the CALE test, which is the Canadian Academic English Language Test. So this basically measures the English language proficiency of students planning to study at Canadian universities or colleges. So if you're thinking about continuing your studies in Canada, this would be a good option. So basically, this test is taken at a test center. And by next month, you will also be able to take this test at home in Hong Kong. So you have the option of doing CALE online, which is the same test as CALE at a test center. So if you decide to take this test at home, just be sure that you have an updated computer with a good Wi-Fi connection. And the price is the same whether you take it at home or at a test center. And for this particular test, we also, just like the CELPIP test, we also offer free resources, webinars, and a free practice test. So all you need to do is just visit us at CELPIP.ca, and you can get all that information there. So you have quite a bit of information here already, but it's the same. It's also computer-based, so everything is done on the computer, and your results will come out in 8 business days. So if you do have any questions, let us know. There will be a way to contact us. Patrick will give that information for info@CELPIP.ca. But I'll put it in the chat as well. So if anybody wants any additional information about CELPIP, I'll put it in the chat box.
Hey, Anna. So let's say if my client want to take the test in person in Hong Kong, is this available next month or just online?
So if they want to take it at a test center, there is one location in Hong Kong that they can take it. But currently, I don't know if there's any dates available. I didn't see any right now online. But since we are going to be offering it also very soon at home, they will have that opportunity to take the test at home. And it's the identical test. So there's no difference in the format, in the scoring, in the rating system. It'll be exactly the same. But one major difference is that if you're taking it at home, you will have a proctor or a person there that will be viewing you while you're taking the test. So through the camera, they'll be looking at you through the whole test. But there are some minor differences, and you can go online to CELPIP.ca to see, because they'll have a comparison about doing it at a test center and online. So you could see some of the differences. And another one would be, for example, if you're using pen and paper at a test center, that is acceptable. At home, you'll have sort of a floating screen that you can use as a pad where you can just write down notes if you need to. So there are going to be some differences, but the actual test is identical. It's exactly the same. And the universities and colleges will accept it, whether you're taking it at home or at a test center. And we do have a list of all the accepting institutions on our website as well.
This is a very good news to our students and clients in Hong Kong.
Yes.
Because right now the IRCC, the Immigration Department in Canada, is allowing people to come to Canada to study and then apply for PR after program completion. So if they can, let's say, take a test recognized by all the university and colleges in Canada, and they can do it at home, I think this is a very, very good news to them.
Yeah, it's a
good
great
to hear
alternative. Yeah, and I've already put in the link in the chat box. So if anybody needs to go get information, if you go there directly, you can there's a section that says practice, and then you can find the free resources, the webinars, all that is for free. So you can always join anytime.
Next month, right? Okay, I will pay and register one test for myself.
Once that comes out, we'll let you know, Alex, and then we can let everybody else know. Or
maybe give me a discount for
Yeah.
taking the test.
I wish I could get a discount for the test. Yeah. If you have the option also to sign up for the newsletter. So if you're going directly to CELPIP.ca, there is a newsletter there. And according to where you are, they will update any information. So once we have it open in Hong Kong, they will automatically send it to everyone so that at least we know the newest information. But once we get that information, we'll make sure to let you know as well.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much, Anna. Okay, so yeah, so that basically wraps it up. So now we'll get into the questions. Any questions or comments you guys had, we'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, and we'll also put in the contact information there. So if anybody needs to contact us directly or has any additional questions that they were not able to get a response here, or maybe later on you might have a different question, please let us know. We're happy to help you out. So we do
Yep.
have some questions, and I think this one I'm gonna just make this one live. I haven't responded to it yet, but it might be a question that other people may have. So it says, I heard some people said that there would be a problem during the speaking test, that you cannot be, that what you said cannot be recorded. So how is this issue resolved if this happens?
I would say it's case by case, but if there was any, I mean, you know, sometimes with technology, some glitches can happen. But if it was ever a situation where the test center equipment malfunctioned, then we would accommodate you, and we would maybe have you resit the full test, or just the part that was affected, i.e. like the speaking component. So we look at it case by case individually, but if any equipment ever malfunctioned and it was something out of your control, then we would accommodate you and have you resit the full test or that component. So just email us. Just make sure that you have to report any problems that you had during the test within 48 hours after your test. So and it's not by phone, it's by email. So you have to email, there's a specific email, but you'll be given that email when you arrive at the test center to take the test. So just make sure you report any issues that you had right away, if you have them. But things like that can happen, but we would accommodate you if any, by no fault of your own, we would accommodate you.
This is great news. Now, just to clarify, because I know some people sometimes have issues where they're talking and then there's other people talking at the same time. Can you clarify that experience and the difference now? Because with COVID, a lot of things have changed, and as well as, I know you mentioned about the mask, but I think it's just sort of to confirm all that information, because usually most people are concerned about the speaking test at the test center.
Yeah, I would just say, like, typically, especially pre-COVID, you'd kind of want to think of the speaking section as kind of like a coffee shop environment. So where, you might be talking to your friend or your family member, and then there might be some background conversations going on. So just try to get comfortable in that kind of environment. Having said that, we have staff members constantly walking around the room to make sure that nobody's speaking at a volume level that's too loud. And then now with the pandemic, there's less people in a room now. And there's more space. So that volume is even going to be minimized even more from other people around you, because now there's even more space between you and the next person. But just in general, to get comfortable in kind of a coffee shop environment where there's some light background conversations going on. And as I said, due to the COVID procedures we put in place, the volume will be reduced even more now with less people in a room and more space between test takers.
Yeah, that's good. And I've also heard that some people, some test takers were telling me that now they don't really pay attention to other people. They're just so focused on their test and what they have to say and what they need to respond that they barely hear anybody on the side. So I think the experience now is much better than it used to be. And for the next one, this is always $1 million question. It says, is CELPIP easier than IELTS?
Yes.
Before Patrick to explain further, I want to elaborate a little bit more about speaking tests. From my own experience in my practice, I have seen a lot of IELTS test report, and most of the candidates has problems with the speaking test because they may be nervous when they have eye contact or doing some body languages. So I think more when people in Hong Kong understand CELPIP more, they will prefer to take CELPIP because the speaking test to them may be easier because they are not they don't use English in daily conversation with let's say a foreigner or Australian or British, right? When you talk with a computer, you just record your message. I think that's much easier for them. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, the accent can really make a difference. I mean, I know myself, sometimes I can struggle to understand other dialects of English, just because I wasn't brought up listening to that. So it was a bit, it was an adjustment for me to be able to understand different dialects. So especially if you've been really familiar with the North American or Canadian English, then this might be an advantage for you in taking a test like CELPIP. So yeah, so that's a great point, Alex.
Yeah, these are actually really good points that you're both making. And I think that nowadays, especially not just because of COVID, but I think we use so much technology that we're so used to being now in front of the computer, practicing on the computer, having these type of conversations. As you see, this is a perfect example where I'm talking to you. I don't see you, but I'm still having a conversation. So that we're getting more adjusted to this type of communication and technology, which makes it easier also for people to do these type of tests because there's no one in front of them, so they don't become nervous because the person in front of you is the rater and they know that you're going to be given some type of evaluation. So we try to minimize that nervousness by doing it just directly in front of the computer.
Yep, great point.
So, okay, so let's go back to the initial question. It says, is CELPIP easier than IELTS? I mean, I think I would like to get Alex's input here. what you think?
I have come across a lot of different reports. Some clients take IELTS for 4 times, CELPIP for 2 times. Sometimes they do better in IELTS, sometimes they do better in CELPIP. I think there is no standard answer to this question. But generally speaking, if speaking is one of the tasks that you find difficulties, I would suggest you to take CELPIP. In terms of immigration, people target for, let's say, federal skill worker, they target CLB 9 in IELTS, which is listening 8, other sections is 7. But for CELPIP, you don't need to do the conversion, right? You get CLB 9, 9 score is CLB 9. So this is easier to understand, and there is no 0.5 score in CELPIP. So for the test format, if you are okay with to do the test within 3 hours in one setting, and you don't need to go to the other test center or wait for a few hours, I think CELPIP is better. But if you prefer the other test format, let's say IELTS, I think this is quite personal. Yeah. But for me, I may prefer CELPIP because I'm doing this webinar.
Yeah, and we're like we want what's best for you guys, so we're just here to give you one of the options, and then we encourage you to explore the CELPIP test. You know, try out some of the free products, the free practice test, and that will help you make your decision on which English test you feel comfortable taking. So yeah, as Alex said, everybody has different skill sets, different abilities, so you have to kind of see which test would be the best to showcase your skills. So yeah, so we're happy to provide you with this information on the CELPIP test as an option for you guys to consider.
Yes, we had somebody else ask us something very similar again, because they're asking to compare with IELTS, PTE, CELPIP test is harder or easier to get higher scores. In which part of CELPIP more focused to test to compare with other tests? Well, they are different tests, but if you're trying to compare, I mean, obviously we're doing 4 different modules, and if you're comparing with other tests, they might have something very similar where you just focus on the listening, then the reading, then the writing, then the speaking. But as Patrick has mentioned, there are obviously some differences. One being the speaking test portion of that test is done directly on the computer. Everything is done on the computer. You're not doing it on paper. Listening, there are some differences as well, but at least if you have your headphones, if you want to put the volume up, you can. So there are obviously pros and cons to every test, and there's no perfect test, but you always try to have to find that ideal test that is better suited for you. And obviously we do have free tests available so that you could at least try it out and see from the practice tests what would be a better option for you. But I wish there was a simpler response for this, but individually.
Just a little small tips for express entry applicants. Please expect to take more than one test. Yeah, maybe you can try once in IELTS, once in CELPIP, and for the third one, you can take CELPIP or IELTS based on your experience. That's my a little bit sharing. Yeah.
All right. But you are spending money, so just be aware of that because you do have to pay the full amount. But
as I said, my client took more than 4 or 5 times.
Wow. Okay.
Just to get a high score.
Yeah.
Because when you attain CLB 9, let's say all 9 score for all the sections in CELPIP, you get additional points in express entry.
Yeah, and that makes a difference for some people. It is necessary. All right, so moving on to the next question. It says, how long will the results be valid for?
So your results are valid for 2 years for both CAIL and CELPIP from the time you've taken the test. So just keep in mind, after 2 years, we don't have your results anymore on file. So just make sure that you have copies of your results, whether it's the online downloaded report or like physical copies in the mail, because once 2 years has passed, we don't have your results on file anymore. So if you were to request a new copy, we wouldn't be able to do that. So just make sure within the two-year period after your test, you have copies of your results just in case.
And just to clarify, Alex, if they are sending their application for citizenship, will they accept an expired copy?
For citizenship application, I think the test report can valid for more than 2 years. Yeah.
And that's why we're always hinting at make sure you have an additional copy to just in case. If you have a copy, then you might be able to use it for other purposes. So.
Yeah.
Good. So, and I don't see any other questions, but please feel free to ask us any questions now that we're here live with you. Any other comments, Alex, or any questions that you frequently get from your clients?
Sure. Sometimes my client often tell me about they are not happy with the score. So can they, let's say, appeal or ask for a remark on this?
Yeah, so you can request, it's called a reevaluation. So you can request a reevaluation in your CELPIP account within 6 months after your test date. But it's only for writing or speaking, because listening and reading are multiple choice. So if they got remarked, it would be the same score because it's computer marked. It's, A, B, C, or D for listening and reading. But for speaking and writing, it would go to multiple new raters that don't know what your original score is, and they will remark it and give you a new score. So how it works is, if the raters feel that your score is higher than your original score, you'll be, to clarify, there is a fee to pay to get a component reevaluated first and foremost. So you have to pay $55 Canadian plus tax to reevaluate a single component. So if the new raters give you, for example, a higher score in writing, you'll be refunded for the reevaluation of writing. So you'll get the money back if the result increases due to the remarking. If the raters feel that your score was lower than the original score, we'll keep the score the same as your original score, so you won't lose any marks. So that's basically how it works. $55 plus tax per component to reevaluate, and you will get that money back if the score increases for that component.
Great. Okay, so We do have a question here, and it's more, I think, for me now, but it says, is CELPIP academic also easier than IELTS academic? And is it accepted by universities and colleges? Now, just one thing to make clear, we don't have a test called CELPIP academic. So the test is actually called CAEL. It's like the vegetable, but the, the spelling is C-A-E-L. So CAEL. The CAEL test, that is the Canadian Academic Proficiency Test, and it is accepted by all universities and colleges. So that wouldn't be an issue. And to know the type of scoring, what you need, because the scoring is over 90. So many universities, and not all universities, but many of them will accept a 70 over 90, but it's always best to go directly to their website to see what the requirement is. And then colleges usually is 60 over 90. Now, we don't have 0.5, so it'll be 60, 70, 80, 90. So just be sure to check the website, because sometimes they'll have very specific levels for each section of the test. Sometimes it's an average. So it's always best to double check in the institution to see what the requirement or what the required score is. Now, if it's easier or more difficult, I know that's always a question on everybody's mind, but going back to Alex's reference, it's always a personal choice. Now, the CAEL test is different than the IELTS test. So the IELTS is based on modules that are, it's just the listening, the reading, the writing, and the speaking. But the CAEL test is an integrated test. So you actually don't need to memorize any information. What you need to do is just understand the information. So in one section of the test, you might have, for example, a reading section. You answer all the questions, the multiple choice questions. And then after, you have one speaking question about that reading that you just read. So it's going to be, how much did you understand from the information that you just read? And the same will be for the listening. So in the listening section, you'll respond to all the questions. There'll be a short listening, a long listening, and then you'll have a question about the long listening, which you verbally need to respond to. So it's meant to be very similar to a classroom experience. So if the teacher is lecturing, giving information, and you're writing down notes, you're writing down the information, and then she asks you, okay, what did you understand about the lecture? Then that means that you do have to understand the information to be able to respond. So it's meant to mimic or to be very similar to a classroom experience. And if you want to try the test, I absolutely recommend you go to cael.ca, and where you have free resources, there's a section that says free test. You can click on it and just go ahead and do it right now if you want to. So hopefully this will clarify a little bit of that information. And then the next question I'll have Patrick respond to. It says, the assessment, is it evaluated by AI or human?
Would this be, I guess, for CELPIP or for?
Yes. Well, I guess
yeah,
for both, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, there's parts like, for example, the multiple choice components, which would be like the listening and reading sections in CELPIP. They're marked by computers because it's just like an A, B, C, or D. Choose one out of 4 answers. But the writing and the speaking sections are marked by multiple raters. So for your individual speaking test, multiple raters evaluated and gave you your speaking score. So it's not one rater that marked your writing or your speaking section. It's multiple raters that separately scored you, and they take an average. That way it's the most accurate possible grade that you've received. So some are human scored, and some components are computer scored if they're multiple choice format.
Great. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any any questions at the moment, but again, if you want to ask us anything, please feel free.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Anything additional you would like to ask us, Alex, or?
I think that's very much for tonight because it's 11:15 p.m.
Oh,
in Hong
right.
Kong already.
See, I'm
Yeah,
not even
so
thinking about that, but thank you so
yeah.
much for attending. Me, I just want to continue talking.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like morning time here, and then in Hong Kong it's like evening time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it like Friday evening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friday eve. So you guys the weekend started now. You can enjoy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
There you go.
one person just asked, can we have the slides run through in this call?
So yeah, there will be well, I know Alex is going to be posting this recording. And just look out for the email that we send you in a couple hours, and that will give you follow-up content. But I think the recording
I do
I would
believe
say-
everyone receives the recording
I
as
think
well.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, because we switched over to Zoom now, but I think it's the same. So everybody should
Yeah.
receive it. Yeah, so just look out for the email that's going to come in your inbox in a couple hours, and that will give you the voucher code to receive the free study product, as well as the recording and additional information.
Okay.
If you want to go back to these materials, you can always watch the recording or go to our company's YouTube channel or website to watch the webinar once more.
Yes, and the
Perfect.
next question, I think it might be the last question. It says passing rate of CELPIP. So we don't have a pass or fail, but I think Alex can clarify sort of the necessary scores that are required for immigration, but on our end, there's no pass or fail.
Okay, sure. So 或者可以講中文咧，咁大家可能就係容易啲理解親切少少。咁其實 CELPIP 咧，佢就唔會有0.5分啦，咁又有5分啊、6分、7分、8分、9分咁樣啦。咁如果移民嚟講咧，如果你係技術移民啊、加拿大經驗類別咧，你就越高分越好嘅。咁但係因為佢個 matrix 計法咧，就係如果你全部攞到9分咧，你會有 additional points。咁有好多譬如話香港嘅年青人係用技術移民咁樣嚟加拿大嘅話咧，好多時候佢哋咧都會係希望可以攞到 CELPIP 9分，即係 IELTS 其實 listening 8分，其他攞7分。咁樣計法咧，佢哋嘅 express entry 分數咧就一般嚟講都可以超過400幾分嘅。但係如果咧你可能有啲分數係特別低，可能 CELPIP 得8或者7嘅話咧，你相對就會拉低咗個分數。
Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending such a late night webinar or morning if you're here in Toronto, but we appreciate that you're joining us today.
Yep,
So thank you so much for your input, Patrick and Anna. We are so happy to have you, and we have get very useful tips from your side. And I think this is a very good webinar for Hong Kong people or other nationals who are planning to immigrate or study in Canada. So, and then also thank you for our friends and attendees joining our webinar. 好多謝你哋 join 呢個 webinar 啦，咁即係百忙之中抽閒，即係嚟 join 我哋都即係好感激你嘅。咁希望嚟緊你哋攞個 study materials 都可以幫到你去準備個考試啦。Okay, so I think that's it for today, right, Patrick, Anna?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody. Sorry.
Patrick?
Oh yeah, thanks everybody. I hope everybody's keeping safe, and yeah, feel free to reach out to us. So we're going to email everybody. We'll have our contact information as well as Alex's, so feel free to get in touch with us. Yeah, we're here to help you, and yeah, stay safe, enjoy the weekend, and yeah,
Happy weekend.
happy weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye everybody. Take
Thank you
care.
so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.